It started on a rainy Tuesday morning, the kind of day that feels heavy before anything even begins. The courtroom was buzzing, filled with murmurs and shifting bodies, as people tried to get comfortable for what everyone thought would be just another routine case. But no one expected what happened next. Not the audience, not the court staff, and definitely not the judge. Twin sisters Amara and Ayanna had walked into that courthouse like anyone else would. Calm, quiet, respectful. Dressed in neat black suits, they didn't look like trouble. They didn't speak unless spoken to, their eyes straight ahead, their backs straight with the kind of discipline you don't see every day. But before they even had a chance to say a word in their defense, the judge, an older man with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue, started making jokes. He chuckled as he looked down from the bench. "Well, would you look at that, two of you? I guess they come in pairs now, huh?" The courtroom laughed. Not everyone, but enough to make the moment sting. He wasn't subtle. He made comments about their attitude, questioned their background, and even made a crack about how they must be used to standing trial, with a history like theirs. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Amara and Ayanna weren't just any twin sisters from the city. They were elite. Both of them had gone through one of the most intense classified training programs the U.S. Army has ever offered. Skills that could dismantle weapons, disarm opponents, or survive in the most brutal combat zones. They had seen things that would silence most people. But they didn't brag, didn't show off. They sat there, silent, taking it all in, and then the room shifted. The judge asked a question. It was supposed to be simple, just to get the hearing going. But when Ayanna responded, calm and steady, there was something in her voice that caught everyone off guard. It wasn't anger. It wasn't fear. It was control, like someone who knew exactly who they were and what they were capable of. And for a split second, the judge paused. You could see it in his eyes, that flicker of confusion, of doubt. But just as that tension built, the story took a sudden turn. Outside the courtroom, in a completely different part of town. On a crowded city bus, a young black teen named Jordan was riding home after a long day of school and part-time work. He was tired, earbuds in, hoodie up, just trying to make it through the ride. Then he noticed her. A pregnant white woman standing near the front, one hand holding the rail, the other resting on her belly. No one had moved. The bus jolted, and she almost lost her balance. Without saying a word, Jordan stood up and nodded toward his seat. She smiled softly, surprised, and took it. They didn't talk. No one applauded. It was just a quiet act of kindness. But when she got off at the next stop, she turned back and handed him something folded up. A small note. Jordan opened it, and what he read stopped him cold. It wasn't just a thank you. It was something else, something he never could have expected. A message that would change the course of his entire life. And while Jordan stood frozen on that bus, heart racing, the courtroom was still holding its breath. Ayanna had just said something, one sentence, and the judge's face turned pale. He leaned back, speechless, as if he suddenly realized just how wrong he had been. Because that day, in two very different parts of the city, lives were about to collide. Secrets were about to come out. And not everyone was going to walk away the same. But what exactly did the note say? And what did Ayanna reveal that made a man in power sit back in stunned silence? You're about to find out. Jordan stood still as the bus rumbled on, his hands gripping the small, crumpled note. The city blurred past the window beside him, but he didn't see any of it. The words written on that tiny piece of paper were burned into his mind, looping over and over like a song you can't turn off. The handwriting was neat, almost too perfect, like someone had taken time to write something that mattered. He read it again. You don't know me, but I know exactly who you are. You're more important than you realize. Don't ignore this. Your life is about to change. Meet me at the address below. Come alone. No signature, just an address scribbled beneath the message, just a few blocks from where he lived. He looked out the window again, heart pounding harder than before. This couldn't be real. He had no enemies, no secrets. He wasn't famous or anyone special. He was just Jordan, a high school senior trying to finish the year, take care of his mom, and survive a city that didn't always show kindness back. Why him? Meanwhile, back in the courtroom, Judge Wallace was still staring at Ayanna like he'd seen a ghost. His usual arrogance had slipped for a moment, and the courtroom had grown quiet. You could feel the tension thick in the air, like the whole room was leaning in. Ayanna didn't say anything else. She just folded her hands and waited. Her sister, Amara, glanced over at her with the slightest nod, as if they'd both been waiting for that exact moment. The prosecutor shuffled his papers, awkwardly, clearly thrown off. He looked to the judge for direction, but Wallace didn't respond. Instead, he cleared his throat, looked down at the bench, and mumbled something about taking a recess. Just like that, the gavel came down, and people started whispering. Outside the courtroom doors, a young reporter named Lena had been watching the whole thing unfold. She'd been covering court stories for over 2 years, but something about this one felt different. She didn't know the full story yet, nobody did, but her gut told her there was something big beneath the surface. She'd seen the way the judge flinched, the way the twins carried themselves, calm and focused, like they knew something no one else did. So while the crowd poured out for the break, Lena stayed close. She didn't want to miss anything. Back on the bus, Jordan finally sat down again. Only now he was at the very back, gripping the note like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. He wanted to throw it away, forget it, pretend none of it happened. But something in his chest told him not to. He couldn't explain it. The words felt personal, like whoever wrote it really knew him. He pulled out his phone and typed the address into his Maps app. It was a small place, a bookstore tucked between a laundromat and a barbershop. He passed by that block almost every day and had never noticed it, but suddenly, it felt like the most important place in the world. He didn't tell anyone, not his mom, not his best friend, not even the group chat. He just made up his mind. He was going. Back in the courthouse, Ayanna and Amara sat quietly, in the hallway waiting for the next round. People walked past them, whispering, glancing. Some looked confused, others looked curious. They didn't seem to notice, or maybe they were just used to it. They'd spent most of their adult lives learning how to blend in, even when everything inside of them was wired for alertness. Their time in the military hadn't just been training. It had been survival, covert operations, hostile zones, missions that weren't talked about in the news. When they left, they didn't leave because they wanted to. They left because they were told to. Something happened during their last assignment, something they were still not allowed to speak about. And now, somehow, their past had followed them home. Amara leaned in slightly, her voice barely above a whisper. "You think he recognized the name?" Ayanna didn't look at her. "He knows something. Not sure what. But he wasn't expecting us to say it out loud." Lena, the reporter, watched from down the hall, pretending to scroll her phone. She took a quiet photo of the sisters from behind, careful not to draw attention. She had already texted her editor that this wasn't just another courthouse story. Something deeper was unfolding, and she was determined to follow it. Back at home, Jordan stood in front of his mirror, looking at himself. Same hoodie, same shoes, same tired eyes. But something felt different. That note had flipped a switch inside him. He didn't know what he was walking into, but he knew he couldn't ignore it. He slipped the note into his pocket, grabbed his keys, and stepped outside just as the sun began to set. The air felt colder than usual, like the wind itself was warning him. He ignored it and walked faster. At the same time, in the judge's chambers, Wallace was pacing. He pulled out a locked drawer from his desk and stared at a file with a government seal on the front. His hands shook slightly as he opened it, flipping through the pages until he found what he was looking for. A photo. 2 young black women in full tactical gear. Faces clean, eyes sharp. It was them, Amara and Ayanna. He closed the file quickly, as if it burned to touch. He hadn't seen them in years, not since that case, the one that was supposed to be buried. He thought they were gone, But now they were back, and they weren't here by accident. As Jordan neared the address, his steps slowed. The bookstore was small, its lights dim. The sign above the door flickered. He reached for the handle, hesitated, then pushed it open. A bell rang overhead. The place was quiet, almost too quiet. Rows of dusty books, an old clock ticking somewhere in the back. Then, a voice. "You made it." Jordan froze. He couldn't see who said it, but something told him this was just the beginning.